Heyo, Curse Deck Builder here. We're looking at an artifact deck that Stunning Mistake 390 is looking for help. They're open to suggestions, and the deck feels like it's missing something. So let's take a look. This is Rebek, Architect of Ascension, and Silas Wren partner deck. Already, I like the combination, and I like that it's in Esper colors. Taking a quick peek, we can see there's a very extensive sideboard. I'm going to interpret this as a maybe board, and we might touch on it depending on if it has things we want. And the first thing that immediately comes to mind is we have quite a high curve. We can see we go from 1 to 2s to 3s to 4s very quickly. Same thing here. Enchantments go up to 5. Sorceries start at 4 and go up to 10. Instants are okay. Now I recognize that one of the strengths of Rebek is that you want a large variance of mana costs because you want your artifacts to have protection from those mana costs. Because of that, the first thing I think is that you are running fewer 1 mana cards than I would like. And I will say the same for 2 mana cards. I would primarily look to focus the curve a little more evenly across. You can see that we go from 2, 3, and then we kind of trail off here. And we do have a 10, a 12. I think we want to even it out at least to 5 in a nicer way. 9 permanents for 2 mana. See, that feels low. I feel like most removal and most protection you want from a card is going to be 2 to 3 mana. I'm expecting from, the litany of Doomblade style cards to 3 mana, Chaos Warps, Vindicates, and 1 mana for Swords to Plowshares and Path effects. I would like 1, 2, and 3 to be almost guaranteed as CMCs that you want. The second thing I noticed right away is Silas Wren's main strategy is that you want your artifacts to go into the graveyard. And I'm going to say I don't see a lot of cards that do that. But interestingly, I see a lot of cards that pull cards out of the graveyard. So immediately my thought is, where are the eggs? For those who don't know, eggs are kinds of cards, especially artifacts, that are meant to be sacrificed immediately or can be sacrificed and brought back very cheaply. So Mishra's Bauble is like the coincidental one of these. It doesn't do anything. Modern players are very familiar with this card. You play it, you sacrifice it, and on the next turn you draw a card back. So it feels pretty neutral because you drew it, you played it, and then you drew again. But with cards like Silas Wren, you get to reuse it every turn that you can, and that adds up as card advantage. Similarly, with a card like that, Rebek gives protection from 0. I don't know offhand how relevant that is. There are a few suspend cards that come to mind, but the majority of the ones that are played do not target. So I'm going to be, I guess that stops lands that turn into creatures. That's pretty suspect. I wouldn't worry too much about that. But I would definitely play a few of these egg style cards. The other ones would be the spell bombs, which are particularly strong. Aether Spellbomb, Nihil Spellbomb are the strongest ones, I would say, in these colors. Aether Spellbomb, of course, bounces cards and draws cards, and Nihil Spellbomb clears a graveyard and for a black draws you a card. Both of these are cards you'd be very happy to get back with Silas Wren, get back with Emery. I think they're just good cards. And they put themselves into the graveyard, so you don't even need to worry about sacrificing them. I also noticed that you are running a low amount of mana rocks. One, two, two. And then I'm going to count three here. Okay, I'm going to count three. I might be missing one, but this is for a deck with such a curve. This is a very low amount of mana rocks. You don't have green. You don't have the luxury of a high amount of draw to be constantly drawing your lands. 36 lands. 36 lands can be cut down a little bit if you include a bunch of mana rocks. Without the mana rocks, 36 seems fine. Okay. I think also I'm looking at artifact creatures. Yeah, I think I want to cut Meteor Golem. I want to think about cutting Platinum Angel, which is too bad. It is a very good card, but they're just a bit high. Blightsteel Colossus, if you want to play Blightsteel Colossus, I will never stop you because I understand the fun of Blightsteel Colossus. But there is an argument that Blightsteel Colossus is not a good commander card. I think it has a high reputation um, because of people's memory of getting hit by one. But the without reanimation, without other ways to cheat it into play, is incredibly difficult for you to hit the 12 mana you need for this. Lose X life, create X tap power. I guess this is ramp. I think this is definitely ramp. An organic extinction with improvise gets a lot cheaper, which I don't mind. I wonder these days, swords to plowshares. What does this cost? Because I want to recommend it to everyone. Okay, it's 63 cents, about $1, maybe more. If you're in white, this card is free for you to play. It is an incredibly powerful removal spell, and although it doesn't hit enchantments like Mortify or doesn't hit all permanents outside of lands like Utter End, it's just clean and nice. That being said, I will also consider how important this section is to your deck, namely Counterspell. I don't find if you're going to play blue in Commander and you're going to play Counterspells, I think you have to actually commit. I think you have to go between 2 to 6 Counterspells. You can't play the one, even 2 is suspect. I would go 4 to 6 minimum because otherwise you're not going to see them, and oftentimes you're not going to want to hold up the mana for them. And also, really important is that counterspells create soft power. And by that, I mean when your opponent sees that you play a counterspell, they start preemptively thinking about the next one. But one counterspell, you can't actually show the next one. No one's going to fear it because there's only the one. And you might say they don't know that you don't have a second one. Yeah, but after playing, no one plays one game with you and never talks to you again, right? People are going to play multiple games, and once they realize that the only counterspell that you seem to be playing is counterspell, they're going to stop worrying about you and the mana you're holding up. Which brings us to the second idea here is when are you holding up mana? This deck is very much so this deck wants you to tap out, drop your cards, and build your board. I think it's very good at that, and I think that's what you should be pushing towards. And with that in mind, you are not going to hold up Counterspell. You have to be very ahead on mana, something that I think is difficult for your deck. I assume this 21 Swamp is supposed to be an even breakdown of basics. I'm not going to think about it too much. But you're not going to be holding up mana here. So I think Counterspell is wasted. I think you'd be happier to just replace it with a removal spell or something else. I think, yeah. I think at this point, I'm going to wrap it up a bit early here because I think there's a bit of tension between the directions this deck wants to go in, right? I see Rebecca is the kind of partner that you use when you want to make a wide and varied mana cost board. You want to have a 1-drop, you want to have a 2-drop, you want to play a 3-drop like Silas Ren, which could be both as your commander or in a different deck in the 99, and then you want to play Rebecca, have all your creatures have protection across the board, and then start making attacks. But you don't have a very neat curve, and some of your 2-mana spells here aren't even artifact creatures, right? So it's tough for you to get that 1, 2, 3, especially when you have a 1-mana artifact creature and 1 Soul Ring. So I would start by finding 1-mana artifact creatures, which, let's take a quick peek. Mana value 1. Let's say Esper Colors. And honestly, I'm not going to go too much into it. I think a lot of these are playable. From Court Homunculus, Esper Sentinel is obviously more expensive. Hex Parasite and Gingerbrute are great colorless options. All of these would be good options. Even Swooping Lookout, like if you're planning on growing these creatures with Urza, Prince of Krug, and there is another Urza that you could be playing that also increases the power of your artifact creatures, which would be higher mana cost if I remember correctly. There's there, Chief Artificer, that it doesn't grow, but it does create constructs, which is also very strong. But regardless, if you're going to play your creatures and grow your team, you're going to want to have some one drops too. Then on the other hand, to the Rebecca plan, we have the Silas Ren plan, which benefits heavily of cards that are eggs or Emery Lurker of the Loch or Mirror Retriever, where you want to play a select few artifacts, purposely put them in the graveyard, and recur them over and over. Master Transmuter, though this doesn't do what I think it does. Never mind on that one. But that plays a completely different kind of game plan where you're going to be focusing on Altar of the Brood is really strong in a strategy like that, where you're getting a lot of triggers out of it. And then finally, the third strategy that seems to be in a bit of contention here is the high mana cards. Blightsteel Colossus, Platinum Angel, Steel Hellkite, Godfair Statue, Ward of Bones. These are cards you want to ramp into, and that's very doable in an artifact deck. The fact that mana rocks are both lands and artifacts in your deck is very, very good in a deck like this. So I would like to see more of them. It'll let you power out a lot of things that you seem to want to play. And then finally, I'm going to do a quick look before I say anything more on that subject. Is anything here that I see that I just want in here? There's the Urza. Yeah. Yeah, so what I'm going to follow up on, I'm just going to finish the thought and I'm going to say this deck feels like it's being pulled in several directions. I would like you to pick a direction and commit to it and try that version of the deck. I don't know what other white commanders. I think Silas Rebecca is great. I do like that um, that partnership, I guess we would say. Arden's here if you wanted to go more of an equipment style. And is this playable? No, it is the Radiant. It's flyer based. Regna doesn't do that. Partner with. I don't think that's where you want to be. I would suggest, I think outside of Livio, Arden, and maybe a Chroma, very, very, yeah, no, a Chroma you have to build around. I think Rebecca's fine. I think Rebecca's a very good choice in a Silas style deck. I think you should find a strategy that builds towards one or both of your partners. specifically the one you want to play the most, you should put most of your eggs into that basket and then give that a go. Even out the CMC of your deck, the mana cost of your deck, and give that a try and see how that goes. Yeah, I imagine these are here to cast our big boys, and I don't remember seeing anything that tutors for them. So it appears that you want to naturally find these three, and I think you're going to have a difficult time doing that. I think playing you're going to find playing this is going to be leading you into a direction, and I think you should find out what that direction is and build towards it. Right now, you feel like you have several different decks all at once. I think you're going to gain a lot of power by picking one and heading in that direction. As always, I hope this helps. I don't want to seem too critical about your deck, and I want it to come together. I hope the things I've said help you pick a direction. And if you have a second draft of this deck, or any deck you'd like me to see, check the description of this deck for the form that you can fill out and send my way so I can work on that deck. And I haven't said this the last few times, but if you want to subscribe or leave a comment, do the YouTube thing, I would be a big fan. All right, good luck.